Welcome to episode 42 of the Say Report, where we search for the question to the answer of life, the universe, and everything. The answer, of course, being 42. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my contractually obligated to participate in this stupid bit host companion, Sejohn Sejohn.
Hi, everybody.
If it's any consolation, I believe that over the weekend we have found the question to the eternal answer of life, the universe, and everything. But before we get to that, I'd just like to say it's thematically accurate, Sejohn, because we're a show about everything, and it's right there in the question. But seriously, Zach is going to love that we're doing this. I don't know which Zach, but one of them will.
Well, and, we do hope that this podcast becomes the basis for what will eventually be the Hitchhiker's Guide, so...
Wouldn't that be super cool if, sometime in the distant future, these guys talked about everything? I'm trying to make a buck on everything, too.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But I don't want to keep you all in suspense before Sejohn makes his nice little transition. The eternal question to the answer 42 is, how many hours can Sejohn spend with Devon before he barely tolerates him anymore? Because over the weekend, Sejohn and I, we spent a lot of time together, virtual time, the same type of time that you're getting to peel the curtain back from right now, playing video games. I did a lot of A Link to the Past Randomizer. Actually, that's what we played, right? We only played Link to the Past Randomizer.
Yeah.
And Sejohn, about 42 minutes.
I played a little Goof Troop into it as well, but yeah, no, Link to the Past.
Link to the Past, right? What we shared with. And about 42 minutes in, Sejohn got loopy both times that we had these gaming sessions. So there's 42 again. That's also just a lie for the bit, but I don't care. I'm going to. It's over. The bit's over. Because it worked to facilitate us talking about us playing a bunch of video games this weekend. But where I need to apologize to Sejohn, and this is, it's on record, Sejohn, right? If you ever need to hear me apologize to you, just look for episode 42 of the Say Report. And that really applies to anyone, right? If you get a free editing program, you could put your name in for Sejohn and they'll I'm sorry. See, and right
what
there,
he's
you
saying
just put your name.
He's not going to apologize for anything ever again. He doesn't need to.
No,
That's
I don't.
What he's saying.
It's on record. I've put it on to the digital tape, and there we go. But what I need to apologize to Sejohn for is I have a way of playing video games when I am alone in the house, as I was both times we had these game sessions. And that is, I have a TV located in the same room where I play.
Yeah, sorry. I'm remembering. Yeah, keep going.
It's like PTSD for the guy. It really is. And what I do is, when I sit down, before I sit down to play video games, I go to the guide, because we still have cable at the Decker house. And I go through the movie channels, because we got all the movie channels. And I will find movies that, I know fairly well, so I can listen to them in the background. And I set reminders so that when those movies start, it'll just automatically switch over to the next movie. But I've never done that and then been on a microphone at the same time. Usually it's because it's just me playing a game and I want noise so I don't feel alone. Or I can't be snuck up on by Jason, because everybody knows Jason Voorhees is afraid of sound. Look it up. I put it on the Wikipedia today. So, it's there right now. They've probably already repaired it, but
it's the one thing he is fearful of, though, is his loud noises.
Just noises in general. Oh, I'm not going to kill someone in this house. They're watching my cousin Vinny. Actually, I think what Jason Voorhees is actually afraid of is spoilers. And, being a reanimated corpse, he hasn't had a lot of time to get out to the cinema. So there's
He just doesn't want to come in because you're watching movies.
He's like, oh, no, I've never seen my cousin Vinny. I'll just go to the next house.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, man.
Hey, I have not been murdered by Jason yet.
Touché.
I'm just saying, if it logically works, it logically works for me. But
I would like to buy your Tiger Rock. Sorry, keep going.
Thank you, Family Guy quote from Sejohn. But I've never been on a microphone while I've been doing that, and it turns out...
I can't let you do that. I can't let you do that. I can't let you get away from that.
Can't let me get away from what? Is it not Family
Simpsons
Guy?
quote.
It's Simpsons. Oh my god! Oh my god! It's Homer. No, fuck me! I can't believe I just did that.
It's Lisa trying to explain to Homer basically what a placebo is.
It is. Oh my goodness! That's a great episode. I'm a dumbass. This is a momentous occasion for Devin Decker. This whole episode. I apologized. I admitted I'm a dumbass.
When it all fell apart and Devin became human.
No, I can't. I have to be infallible. It's like dogma. But what I do, I've never been on microphone before, so no one has ever had to hear me do this while those movies are on in the background, and I can see nothing, but I can only hear the words. I am super critical of the films.
Verbally. You are verbally critical of the films, which is the more important point.
Yes, I am.
It's not just that you're sitting around being more critical of them than you normally would be.
It's just because, like, I'm not watching it, right? Like, because usually, I guess that's it. Like, usually it's my eyes and my ears that are involved, so my mouth knows to be quiet. But when it's only my ears, my mouth is like, it's time to share all of my little thoughts about Dumb and Dumber.
It was Dumb and Dumber, too. But, like, but it's basically like movies will always take up two of your senses, and since it wasn't we were watching, you would started talking.
And I do need to apologize to Sejohn for that, because like I was thinking about it later on so here's the thing, we've covered it before on the Say Report. Jim Carrey, the three movies you think of when you think of Jim Carrey, the Mask, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective,
Ace Ventura, and
Dumb and Dumber. I thought we were going to say them at the same time, right? Because it's cool that we also did that order.
I almost forgot what we were talking about, which is why I didn't say the last one. But yes.
Okay. Well, I've already mentioned Dumb and Dumber.
I know you did, which is why I was embarrassed. Thanks for bringing it up.
I love you, Sejohn. I love you. So anywho.
What is happening?
Life is falling apart in front of us. I also think I called Jeff Daniels Jeff Bridges yesterday. So apologies.
No, you definitely didn't.
Oh, okay, good. I was nervous. Like I was like trying to fall asleep last night, and I'm like, did I refer to Jeff Daniels as Jeff Bridges? Am I a monster?
As if we were recording it and people were going to call you out on it. The only person listening to you was me, and I knew what you meant.
I was also listening to myself. Anywho,
I tend not to listen to myself when I speak. I don't want to get angry.
I drift in and out. Anywho. But those all came out in 1994. We've covered that. But another little soupçon that Sejohn got to see yesterday is whenever I watch Dumb and Dumber, Charles Rocket is in that movie. And Charles Rocket comes on screen, and my first thought is Charles Rocket in Dumb and Dumber because he and Jim Carrey were both in Earth Girls Are Easy? I forgot Earth Girls Are Easy.
I remember that one. It's Jeff Goldblum.
That is Jeff Goldblum. He's also in Thor Ragnarok, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Ouch.
But I always think about, that's my first thought whenever Charles Rocket shows up. And then, because I'm just a crazy person, there's the lady hit woman, the hit man, who is a female, is Karen Duffy. And she, in 1994, also was in multiple movies. She appeared as Shay in Blank Check. And then in Blank Check is Tone Loc, or Tone Loc, the wild thing himself. Give me some of that funky Cole Medina. And he appears in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. So I was making all these like weird 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon connections from the Jim Carrey 1994 movieverse. And what I did last night as I tried to go to sleep was link any actor besides Jim Carrey to Blank Check, Ace Ventura, or Dumb and Dumber from The Mask, and I could not do it.
Oh, come on, man. There's so many good people in The Mask, though.
There are so many good people in The Mask, but like, there's just no crossover.
Do you think Cameron Diaz ends up in Something About Mary because of
There you go. Perfect. There we
But it
go.
is. But we do know that those three Jim Carrey movies all take place in the same universe because there was a TV show in which all of those characters show up.
Well,
Well, does Lloyd ever show up? Probably not. But
there's a TV show where those two cross paths, and I believe that Dumb and Dumber did have a crossover with Ace Ventura, possibly planned. I just don't think it ever happened. But yeah, but
because
that's
they only got like a season as well, right?
yeah, that was
but yeah,
the Dumb
all
and Dumber
three
on
of those came out in the same year. All three of those ended up with television spin-offs. Like, yeah,
and like against the odds, the one that had the best spin-off was The Mask. I say that, but like The Mask was actually based on something. Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber were both original properties. The Mask was a comic book adaptation. So like
not a good one, but yes.
Well, yeah, it didn't adapt that comic at all. But then, like strangely, the TV show that was based on the movie, like, really did adapt the R-rated comic book in like some pretty interesting ways.
The interesting thing about that movie is the moment when it becomes a lot like the comic book. Why are we talking about The Mask? This is awesome. The moment when it becomes the most like the comic book is when the bad guy ends up with the mask.
That's true. That is 100% true.
That is what that comic actually really is more like. So like it's really interesting because it does become the comic book, but not when they wanted you to want it to. It's really weird what they chose to do with that movie. It is so weird. Also, all of the Caribbean music. What was that about?
Oh, we loved Caribbean music. Thank you, fucking Beetlejuice. That's all that I could think of. Where was I? I was at some bar like the weekend before Halloween. We already talked about it briefly, but like there were a bunch of people in Beetlejuice and Lydia costumes.
Okay,
now, first of all, shitty couples costume. I'm just gonna go on the record.
Yeah,
and say
because
that.
Lydia and Beetlejuice. I mean, if they only watch the cartoon show and don't really get but yeah, Lydia and Beetlejuice are not the couple.
No, you want to do a Beetlejuice couple costume? You dress as friggin' Alan Rickman. Alec Baldwin,
Alec Baldwin
and Gina Davis.
Yeah.
But or you dress as Catherine
Reed.
O'Mara and Jeffrey
and a child
Jones.
molester. Yeah, Jeffrey Jones.
You don't dress as Beetlejuice and Lydia. It's just weird. But all these couples costumes, and like the band did the song, and I think what makes me the saddest about that is that everybody calls it the Beetlejuice song.
Oh God!
And it's like, no, this is the work song.
It's a song. It was a song before, and it was separate from the movie.
Dude, but like that's
you know what?
100%.
Okay, you want to actually?
Oh wait, before. The reason why the sequel to Beetlejuice will be Beetlejuice Goes Hawaii is because of that one fucking Caribbean song in Beetlejuice.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Okay. Here's why the 90s sucked, all right? the 90s didn't have a true identity. Everything was so okay in this country. At the time we thought it was great. I mean, now looking back, we realize things were never really great, but like things were going so well in this country that we kind of just lost like any real like edge to what we were doing. So like the 80s is insane, right? In the 70s, everybody can identify something from the 70s, but it's actually like kind of weirdly hard to really kind of pin down like a 90s aesthetic, which is why when it works in movies, we're so amazed. You know, when like Richard Linklater is actually able to put it together, we're just like, oh, that's awesome, right? Like, so the thing is that the 90s was so indescript in a lot of its ways that if you think about like the weird things we went through in the 90s trying to find an identity, I mean, that's when swing became really big again for all of a sudden, right? Like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy just like got like a shot in the arm for about 5 years, right? And then like the
swingers.
And the weird Caribbean phase that we latched onto, and not because Tim Burton ever meant for us to latch onto that. Like, he wasn't trying to be a trendsetter when he chose that. He was just doing that goofy juxtaposition thing that he does in all of his movies. He's like, what's the thing that I can juxtapose against this really horrific image that will be really funny? And at the moment, the joke was Caribbean music. Like, that's all it is. It doesn't go any deeper than that. Like... But yet we all latched onto it, and it became like a big thing for us to see like really weirdly like Caribbean music set against very surreal imagery for a while, which is why you end up with it in The Mask as well. And like kids shows and would use like really weird, like, I mean, look at we even still kind of get it sometimes with things like SpongeBob, right, where you get like the weird like island music put over like really grotesque imagery.
SpongeBob
You know?
is the culmination of what Tim Burton started in that scene in
Yeah.
Beetlejuice. And they've been riding that. There are new episodes of SpongeBob premiering this week on Nickelodeon, and I'm like, what? What? I'm gonna watch
SpongeBob was-
one because it's a film noir parody, and I'm pretty excited.
I've never. That's awesome. I haven't really sat down and really thought about it. But if I really, SpongeBob is very much a product of the '90s. I know the majority of it was the 2000s, and that was when it was really big. But like, it really is. Steve Hillenbrand was obviously like heavily influenced by a lot of like '90s culture and a lot of that weird stuff that goes on.
But as you just admitted, Sejohn, there was no culture in the '90s.
No,
so
there
what was he influenced by?
There was a culture. It was a culture of trying to find culture. That's what it was. It's entirely about the idea of try anything. Like it's the shotgun effect made into like an aesthetic, right? Like it's like let's try everything and just stick with whatever sticks. And that's why you get things like Hackers, where they're like dressed like they make millions of dollars, but they're supposed to be a bunch of high school kids in New York that like hate the world. But like they buy turtlenecks and like ripped fishnet shirts and shit, and you're just like, you don't hate the world, you buy into every piece of it, you hypocritic. Yeah, like so.
You hypocritic.
Sorry, Hackers. I was gonna say hypocritic asshole, and then I censored myself. I don't know why, considering all the fucking words I say on the show. But like, watch any '90s movie.
I was gonna say, you know what
it
you
is
get in the
struggling
fucking
for
'90s?
identity.
You get Broken Arrow. The movie Broken Arrow happens in the '90s. You get
But-
The Fugitive, which is a remake of a 1960s television show, and then that movie is so big that it gets a fucking sequel that has nothing to do with The Fugitive.
But in the same decade that
US
we
Marshals.
got.
I love
in the
that
same
movie.
decade that we got Jurassic Park, right? Like we also end up with Godzilla, like one of the worst dinosaur movies ever made, like big monster movies ever made, right? Like we swing the spectrum all over the place in the '90s. It's crazy. Nothing was good the entirety of the '90s. There was stuff that bubbled up that is totally memorable and worth going back to, but there is nothing worth following through the '90s. You know what I mean?
And yet that is what our nostalgia is 1000% based in, is all this stuff from the 90s that like captured the universal consciousness for a fucking minute, and then like that's what people's identity is in the 2010s, the 2010s. I don't know, the tennies.
The tennies. That's what they are now. They're the tennies.
Like Pog. Remember Pog?
Yeah, man.
Like, what the fuck was Pog?
I don't know. They were just like, here's some cardboard, right? Like that's essentially what they were. They were like, how can we sell them cards already, but how can we sell them less paper than cards? And that's when they developed the Pog.
Yeah, and people aren't buying cards because it was like, oh, it's bad for the environment, but Pogs are fine because it's 50% less paper.
Yeah, sure. That was the reason we were all buying Pogs, not some stupid cultural wave that came through that nobody can explain.
It's because Alf was on them. Remember Alf? He's back in Pog form. It's another
Man,
Family Guy
Pogs-
quote.
The best Pogs I ever had were Goosebumps Pogs.
Dude, I had the same Goosebump Pogs.
Yeah, those are the best ones, man. And the Slammer I had was what's his name there? The skeleton Bones there. I forget what his name
I
was.
don't think that the skeleton has a name in the Goosebumps.
No, he totally has a name because I saw him on stage at the Goosebumps stage show in Universal Studios.
Fucking Goosebumps happened in the 90s. This was
Yeah,
not
man.
going to be an episode about 90s nostalgia, but holy mama Giuseppe, this is totally what it is.
Yeah, man.
You know what happened in the 90s to me?
Well,
They had a television movie marathon on the Sci-Fi Network of all of the Incredible Hulk made for TV movies.
oh man.
And I know that might seem like it comes out of nowhere, but in the Return of the Incredible Hulk, the Hulk meets up with Thor, which is something that happens in Thor Ragnarok, which I have, I can't believe it has
Nice.
taken me 19 minutes to talk about how good Thor Ragnarok is. So, Sejohn, do you just want to start right from the end and then, go back to the beginning from there? Spoilers, obviously, but
I hate you so much.
why do you hate me, Sejohn? What's wrong?
Because I kept a say report promise. In what I mean is, I didn't keep my promise. I didn't go see Thor Ragnarok yet. I really, really, really want to, but I got caught up in a very intriguing loop today, or not today. I mean, this week.
Was
I
that
was saying to the housemates, I was like, all right, we're gonna go and see. I need to see Thor Ragnarok for the show, and somebody there mentioned, I've only seen like two Marvel movies. I can't let that go. How was I supposed? I can't let that go. So suddenly, I've been spending days. I should take a picture of the chart that I've started of the movies all in the Marvel universe that I consider to be important in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and like who has seen them and who hasn't, and what we need to see, and possibly in what order, and at what point I draw the line and want to give up and say I'm gonna just go see Thor. You guys should just come. So like. There is a plan in place to see this movie, but now I'm on a mission to make sure that the people that come with me are prepared to see this film.
I would like. The funny thing is, I had to do the very same thing, except with my sister Dale. But the difference being, the only Marvel movies that she had never seen were Thor and Thor: The Dark World. Like
Ugh.
literally, those were her two. Those were the two that she missed. She had seen every other one. Well, she hasn't seen The Incredible Hulk, but like, does that one count anymore? Like, maybe.
I mean, it does. It does for a couple of small reasons.
Yeah, I mean,
First off,
I completely agree, but
yeah, I mean, first off, the introduction of General Ross, also the small scene with Robert Downey that I actually didn't see the first two times I saw it because they did that stupid thing where they released it with 3 different credit scenes, and depending on what viewing you went to, depended on what credit scene you saw. And I didn't know that Robert Downey Jr. showed up in Incredible Hulk until I got it on Blu-ray like a year later, and they had all of the scenes available on it. And I was like, holy shit, Robert Downey's in this movie. How did I miss this?
How
So
did
that's
I
important as
not
well.
know that there were 3 separate credit endings?
Well, one of them is completely pointless. One of them's a stupid one. One of them is, I think him out in him going back to the mountains is definitely part of the movie itself. I got to look into exactly what they are, but the idea was that they saw how good the after credits thing was with Iron Man, and so essentially. It's fucking weird what they decided to do. A lot of the things that they decided to do with Incredible Hulk were really weird. So like, so that movie is important to me also because the creation of that version of him like is important. Bruce Banner is like super important to me. Like I think that it does a really good job of establishing him as a character that I think that Mark Ruffalo builds on in a way. He's definitely a different person than Eric why do I keep I
You're
wanted to call
say
him
Eric Bana.
Roberts. I was going to say Eric Roberts,
wow,
actually.
That's even worse.
That's even worse.
Edward Norton. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually want to talk about another thing with him later. But yeah, I think that Edward Norton and him would have different approaches to playing the character. But I think that the way that Edward Norton plays the character in that movie, I totally buy who he becomes later. It's like Mark Ruffalo is just like an older, grumpier version of that one.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Like it feeds into it, and that's why like I say that it's okay that Dale hasn't seen it, but like since it's her only deficiency now, since last Wednesday we sat down and watched Thor, followed by Thor: The Dark World, which is the only way to watch those movies.
Yeah,
like
I can get behind that. Yeah,
because I love them. Thor is my guy. Thor is my Avenger. I like. It feels weird to say that, but if we're looking at Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and the Incredible Hulk as the Avengers, at least in the MCU, right? Like that's who the Avengers are. Like, no offense, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Coulson, and Nick Fury, but the Avengers, like those are the 4 who are on the fucking t-shirts.
Right. Well, and conceptually, they are the 4 avenging something, right? Like Black Widow ends up in there for Ultron. Like you want to start talking that, but but anyway, for the creation of the Avengers proper, they went after those 4.
Right. Plus, in the original comic books, the Avengers were brought together so that they could battle the Incredible Hulk. And it was Iron Man, Ant-Man, Thor, and then they found Captain America in the 4th issue before they fought the Hulk. But, like, Ant-Man couldn't sell for some reason. Like, remember when we thought that Ant-Man didn't have traction? Like, like stupid because I freaking love
Well,
Ant-Man. And
yeah.
they
Well, then you
basically
put
took
Paul Rudd in it, and so
no, I mean as a character. I've always
no,
thought that
I
Ant-Man is
know.
an interesting character, but I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. But then there's also that interesting thing where the Tony Stark in the MCU is sort of an amalgam of Hank Pym and Tony Stark from the comics.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
there is like that sort of
Pre
connective
pre
tissue in the
MCU.
movies. Oh yes,
Yeah,
obviously pre
post
MCU.
MCU. Yeah, post MCU. They just make him Robert Downey Jr. That's what they do. They do that with a lot of people. I
They've
mean,
done
Nick
that with a
Fury
lot of
just
the characters.
yeah.
Yes, Nick Fury is just Jules from freaking Pulp Fiction. I didn't get killed that day in the diner, and now I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna go head up a secret organization. That's what happened. That's Pulp Fiction is the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I predict that they will give him the first F word at some point in all of the MCU movies.
If it's not him, then it's like a wasted opportunity.
Either him or Thanos. It has to be either him or Thanos. I will allow it if it is Thanos. If he's like being defeated and he's just like fuck. Like,
Yes, that's very true. But Thor's my guy. So like
Yeah, yeah.
when they were doing the Thor movie, I was so excited. And then you see Thor, and it is unlike any other superhero movie that has come before it because it's basically
is.
Shakespeare. It's fucking Kenneth Branagh doing a superhero movie, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful and it's glorious. And I don't know, I love Thor. I absolutely do. And I feel like a lot of people don't because that's the only one that, well, that's not the only one that had a director change between the two. But like, it was well known that they were changing directors between Thor and Thor the Dark World. And then I feel like people really bag on Thor the Dark World too. But again, it's such a beautiful world. Like the Thor movies could totally stand on their own. Where
well,
in a way that
here's the thing.
Yep.
Here's the thing you got to remember about the Thor movies, and the reason that people have I do think that some people out there have a weird relationship with those movies because they don't quite know how to feel about them because they are not their favorite Marvel movies, but they did give them Loki. You know what I mean? Like as much as I agree with you that there is this weird feeling about the Thor films, at the end of the day, they are kind of the most important movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Outside of the fiction, they are the most important movies because they have given us the only true villain of those movies that we've grown to love. You know what I mean? They've given us the most interesting character and the most sellable character. Like Loki is like Tumblr bait, right? And like they're able to pitch, they're able to pitch anything with him to the point where he is no longer now a villain, right? And so like there's this.
was he ever a villain? Like there's that. Like he's a trickster, and he's always looking out for number one.
He's so good in number one as writing that line. Like you're totally right. Like is he truly a villain, right? Like and he's so good. The Avengers.
You know how he's not? You know why he's not a villain? He's fucking still alive.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's like a big Marvel problem. They kill their bad guys.
Marvel's The Avengers? What is the problem with Marvel's The Avengers?
Avengers.
What is the full name of it?
Avengers Assemble. Yeah.
Yeah. So Avengers Assemble, like that is the one movie where you can definitively point to him as just being the antagonist, right? Because in Thor 1 when he's kind of is there's like this. There's a moment when he's not right. Like it's this great bait and switch for the film, and then like the same thing happens kind of in 2. It leads you to believe what's going to be going on in 3 is going to be something different. And then like I know some of how him and his character in Ragnarok, but I mean like Avengers, it's phenomenal, and some of the backstory that's happened in the comics now because of related to the MCU has been really interesting to watch. I actually went back and read. Is it Journey into Magic? Is that the full title of it? The Loki. There's the Loki resurrection.
Yeah,
like
I think
him
it is
trying to
Journey
find
into
himself.
Magic. Yes.
Yeah, that is just so good, right? Like in developing out that character and giving him like complexity like no other like character has. I mean that alone makes me love the Thor movies. Is they gave us who I consider to be the best character that the MCU has really kind of fostered to date. You know, and that being said, like there have been characters since then now that I've really grown to love in a way. Like watching Cap's arc through the 3 films has been, or 5 films, has been really good as well. But at the time, like Loki was like just astoundingly different, you know, and that comes from that Kenneth Branagh just like really just making a good movie before he cared about making a comic book movie, you know? And that's what makes Marvel work for me in a way that DC doesn't, is they get these directors in there that just want to make good movies and that just happen to have comic book characters in them. And then
And
they have Kevin Feige tie it all together in some weird way, but sorry.
no, you don't need to apologize. You're 100% correct. What I was going to comment on was before Thor, I saw the trailer for Justice League and like the newer one, and I got to tell you, I'm going to see Justice League, right? Because I'm going to see Justice League because it's going to be the end, and then it'll be done, and then I won't need to see another DC movie like expanded universe ever again. They'll just be movies based on DC like properties, and that's fine with me. I like that. I'm excited for that. But someone commented that they're so excited for Justice League, and I'm like, how? How can you be excited about this movie? What have you seen so far? And I'm just basing it on the trailer. What have you seen so far in this trailer that makes it look like this is a movie that I need to see? The fact that it's kind of Avengers, like right down to the fact that it's got like parademons, and I'm like, those are just the Shatari, right? But they're also suits. Like, I don't get it. Like, this is where it's crossed the line from imitation to fucking parody on the part of DC. And
Yeah, you're not wrong, man. Like the aesthetic alone is just like, oh, well, our team has all Iron Mans on it, right? Like that's what every costume looks like to me. It's just a different Iron Man suit just slapped on a different body, and it's just like this is great, guys. You just basically you looked at Avengers and you were like, what's the thing that really works in this movie? And you picked one thing, and then you're just riding that into the ground. I don't know, man.
And it just makes me think of like What If number 4. I think it's number 4. It might be number 5. But one of the early Marvel What If comics is what if Stark had died, like in the original Avengers stuff. So he dies, and then the Avengers find out that he was building them all armors. So when they fight the Hulk in what would be issue 5, all of them are in Iron Man suits. And I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Yeah, man. And like I will say, I have to send some love out there to a friend of mine, Matt. You know who you are. He watched Batman. He watched Batman versus Superman, and he legit emotionally attached, cried for like the last like 45 minutes of that movie. From the moment that they both realized that they were actually friends, you know, the infamous Martha.
Yeah, why did you say that?
Yeah. From that moment on, he was so into their relationship that like everything about what happened at the end of that movie, like he couldn't handle it. So like it affected him, and he is the kind of person that is excited for this movie. They are out there. They are out there. That's all. Like I have no excuse for those kinds of people. I have no time for those kinds of people sometimes. But there are people that love these DC movies in a weird way, man. And whatever, if it means I get to see more Batmans, I'm gonna cool. Keep buying tickets.
Yeah, it's just
I will never knock a bad comic book movie if it means I get to see more comic book movies. Because eventually you get an Iron Man. Eventually you get a Thor.
You're not wrong. And like we're two guys who like Howard the Duck from 1984. I will say unironically on my side, I cannot speak for you. But I legitimately love that movie.
I love that movie on a level that nobody truly understands except for maybe you, because I love that movie not just for what it did for like itself and for Howard the Duck, but also for what that movie then did to the entire landscape of film afterwards. Without Howard the Duck, we wouldn't have Pixar. We wouldn't have, you know what I mean? Without Howard the Duck, we would not have Star Wars the way that it is right now. We would not have Marvel the way that it is right now. Disney the way that it is right now. Like Howard the Duck shaped the world in a way that I don't think anybody will ever truly understand.
That sounds like a fantastic subject for a documentary.
I know, man. Like legit. If you actually look into it,
no, I know. Like you're not
Marvel, and I'm trying to think of who else put. There was a bunch of people that put money into that movie that basically lost it, and then essentially, like through trying to recover that money, they basically Marvel went off the deep end. That's when you get like really weird stuff like the Fantastic Four, and if you follow the money trail, it is eventually what leads to Pixar being
You know, because
picked up.
Pixar got picked up that way because he had to sell off a bunch of his stuff so that that company occurred. There'd be no Pixar without Howard the Duck. That is
Right.
100% the truth. There would
Right.
be no
So
golden
think
age of
about
Disney animation
that.
if it was
Exactly.
not for Howard the Duck.
Exactly.
Like,
And I get it. Like, it's not like I don't understand why people don't like that movie or think that it's dumb. Like, I totally understand why they do. But there's an element to that movie that works for me, and then on top of that, it is so historically important that at the end of the day, you just kind of have to laugh. Like, it's stupid how important that movie ends up actually becoming in the history of film, right? And it's the same way with all of these weird DC ones. Like, man, I hated Batman versus Superman, but do you know how important that movie was? Like, that movie
I mean, Wonder
changed
Woman would
everything.
not have been as good as Wonder Woman was
No,
if
I
it
mean,
was not for that. Like,
for the DC stuff I enjoy, right? Like, Wonder Woman would have been what it was. Arrow and that entire CW Arrowverse completely changed because of the way that they handled the stuff in those films and the way that they tore things away from them. You know, like, Arrow was well on its way to doing a Suicide Squad show long before Suicide Squad was a thing. But then, like, when everything went down with Batman versus Superman and DC pulled in, like, started putting a bunch of its crap under its vest because it didn't want to really let anything get damaged. Like, it pulled all of this stuff from Arrow that made Arrow have to scramble to, like, recorrect, and the Arrowverse had to kind of, like, make up for that stuff. And what it actually did was it actually made Arrow and Flash, like, super good because they started pulling from more obscure characters and like started telling really good actual stories from the comics that they could actually have the rights to tell, you know? Like, the DC stuff is always going to kind of be disappointing to me, or at least so far. And I mean specifically the DCU current, you know, like, post Nolan. Like,
oh, you mean
whatever.
in the Zack Snyder era?
I
Because
mean,
like that's what I was
it's
thinking. Like
weird
when you
because
talk about,
you call it the Zack Snyder era, but like Nolan kind of had his hands in some of this early stuff and set the tone of a lot of things. All Zack Snyder did was come in and do his little, like, every dude's gonna be huge and every girl's gonna have exposed breasts. Like that stuff sucks as well. But really, the stuff that kills me is the stuff that they let Nolan put his hands on before he decided he was gonna step away as well.
well, the thing that I don't get, the thing that I just do not understand, do not understand, is Zack Snyder did Watchmen, and Watchmen is going to stand as another Howard the Duck. I feel in the entire like pantheon of comic book movie adaptations. But like and they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to making these comic book movies. But let's give him Christopher Nolan to watch over his fucking shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, like I don't get it. Because like
Yeah, man.
the biggest issues that I have with Man of Steel, and I legitimately like Man of Steel. There is
Mm-hmm.
one scene in Man of Steel that I could do without. And that's it. Like Will and I, when Man of Steel came out, we both saw it, and then we had a 34-part conversation via WhatsApp messages, which at the time were limited to 2 minutes in length. So each of us recorded, trying to do math, 17 little 2-minute snippets about Man of Steel. And we traded them off. Like I did A, C, he did B, D, and so on and so forth until
Yeah.
34 of those existed. And that scene is still the scene that, like, this is the problem with Man of Steel.
Yeah,
And
it's been years. You can spoil it. What scene is
what,
that?
what scene do you think it is? That I was going to ask you what scene you think it is.
I don't know. My favorite scene in the whole movie is when he snaps his fucking neck.
Yeah, that scene's fantastic. So that is not the scene that I have a problem
Okay.
with.
Is it the dog?
It's the fucking dog.
Yeah, that's my problem with the
It's
movie.
it's the dumbest thing. And the reason why it is the dumbest thing, the reason why it makes no fucking sense on any planet, Earth or Krypton, RIP, is the fact that Jonathan Kent's death in the comics, right, after the original retcons, because he originally was not raised by the Kents, but the death of Jonathan Kent showed Superman that even with everything that he does, all of the good that he will do in this world, there are some things that he cannot prevent because his father died due to a heart attack. And that's big. That's a big moment for Superman because it's like you can try, but eventually you're going to fail. There is a built-in expiration date on Earth and Earthlings. So to have it in Man of Steel that he could totally have saved his fucking father, but he was so devoted to his teachings that, like, keep it secret, keep it safe, hide yourself away from the world, Elsa, that he would not save his father from a tornado. Or that his father would be dumb enough to go back for a dog in a fucking tornado. It just, it ruins everything there. And, like, that's the foundation that I feel this whole universe is built on.
Well, right. And, like, if you look at a lot of Zack Snyder's stuff before Man of Steel, like, it always had dark tones to it, but there was always a goofiness to it that is just absent from anything after. You know, like,
and
the closest you start to get to it...
That's the Nolan influence.
Yeah. By the time you get to some of the stuff in Batman v Superman, there is some goofiness, but you feel like they were stopping him. Like there's just and that movie's just all over the place. I don't know. Like we could go on for hours about this stuff.
Well,
honestly, you want to know my real feelings on this stuff? People should go back and check out some Super Kenshi because man, we talk forever about my feelings on this stuff.
Oh, look at that. Nice way to get like a little tag in for your former work. Like really impressed, actually. Like 100% being legitimate. Like, unfortunately, I've talked about how legitimately I'm like trying to pay you praise, so it seems like I'm joking. But I 100% mean that little plug for your old show, Super Kenshi, was excellent. It's true. It really is. And you speak about the goofiness, and I didn't think about it. Like, both of their names are fucking Martha. How has nobody pointed this out yet? Seems like a Zack Snyder moment. But then you put it in, like, through the filter of grim dark, and it's like, yeah, but that's fucking stupid, right?
Right. It's because it's all about context. Because there are these moments that are very Zack Snyder-y. I mean, Batman in the mech suit to fight Superman is one of the most Zack Snyder-y things in the world, and it just comes across as dumb to watch because it's in the context of this really dreary film where you just watched basically a second 9/11 happen to New York City in the destruction of Metropolis, right? Like, you're watching that happen in one scene, and then in the next, Batman and Superman are bonding over the fact that both of their moms had the same name. Like...
It's like, it is the equivalent of when you're in fucking, like, it's like when you and I met, and it's like, oh, you drinking cream soda? I like cream soda. Sejohn and Devon, BFFs forever. I know that's redundant, but we are best friends forever.
Like, the perfect example of that in that movie, the perfect example of that is the way that the way that Lex kills the senator there. What's her name? Who's the actress?
Oh, Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter, who deserves so much better in that movie. But that moment when she gets killed, there's a fucking joke in that moment about the jar of piss. Like, there's like a weird like joke about the fact that he just murders everybody in that room, including this character that we've actually kind of grown attached to. Like, it's insane. Like, it's this terrifying moment of, like, terrible things that he's done that I don't doubt that Lex Luthor would do that kind of thing, but make that kind of movie then. Make it, you know what I mean? Yeah, but then to mix that with a weird pee joke was just, like, so not fun to watch.
I also really like that his Lex Luthor, he totally, like, just got into the headspace of Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network and was like, so what if I'm Mark Zuckerberg, but, like, somehow more famous and influential?
Oh man, yeah. But there's tons of moments in that movie that are just like upsetting.
But you know what? Like, I love Ben Affleck as Batman, so that's the reason why I am really like, I will see Justice League for Gal Gadot and for Ben Affleck. I am not entirely unconvinced that Ezra Miller's Flash has some sort of mental deficiency.
Yeah, there's some weird playing up that they're doing where I think they're going to try and go, like, he's on the spectrum, which is one of those things that movies and television shows like to try and do to, like, be diverse, but always just come across as insensitive and poorly done. So we'll see how they do, especially considering the history of these particular films. But, like, I do feel like they're playing up some idea of Barry Allen being... antisocial, to say the least.
Fast. That his
Yeah,
brains got a little scrambled.
yeah, I mean, essentially, right? Like,
Dude, it's just like when like it's in the trailer when the bat signal comes up and he's like, "That's your signal. That's your signal." 5 minutes to Wapner. It's just like, what are you doing with this character?
yeah, it's weird. It's really weird, man. I don't know.
I'm an excellent driver, but I run everywhere because I'm so fast.
Definitely fast.
Definitely fast.
It's just, oh god.
Oh, okay,
man.
so I feel like
Speaking
that's
of '90s movies,
speaking. What? Oh man, you fucking broke me with that. Speaking of '90s movies thing, that really worked for me. That really worked for me. So, since we just talked about Ben Affleck, kinda tangentially, I would like to address a film that was in theaters for, I'm gonna say, a week. I want to say it was in movie theaters for a week. Somehow I caught it and then it left. And I'd also like to address another film that I saw that was similar to that, and that is The Snowman, which I forgot to bring up last week.
oh man,
Did you
saw
see
the
this?
Snowman.
Oh my god, it's
I
so
haven't.
good. Oh,
Is it? All right.
Sejohn, if there's like some sort of dirt theater where you can go see The Snowman for $1, go see The Snowman. It is so up your alley. I can't believe how good
It
the movie
seems-
was.
It seems from the marketing, and this could totally be the marketing, and I should not let that affect my opinion so much. But it seems like it's trying really hard to be like a Stieg Larsson style like mystery, and like there's been too many movies trying to ape the girl with the dragon tattoo for too long that I can't stand it anymore. So the second I see anything with that aesthetic, I'm instantly turned off. You know, it's one of the few things that has me kind of worried about the new Murder on the Orient Express. Speaking of Kenneth Branagh, because like I really love that story and I really love that cast, but the style of the film right now feels like I said, like he's trying to do like a very like Lynchified like version of. Sorry, Fincherified. Well, David Lynch and David Fincher are two different people. But oh god, a Lynchified version of that movie would be amazing.
That would be crazy.
Sorry.
You like made me. I also kind of want to see an amalgam of David Lynch and David Fincher. I'm like
Just
all
as a
about
person.
that. Yeah.
Sorry, but like it seems very Fincher-esque in like the dark, cold tones with like the weird Nine Inch Nails, not Nine Inch Nails soundtrack over it, that type of thing.
Yeah. So to play into that, that's why I didn't want to see Girl on a Train, is because I fucking hated Gone Girl. I thought Gone Girl was a terrible movie. Mostly because
There were a lot of
like,
people that felt like it was a terrible follow-up for him after Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. But yeah, sorry, keep
like,
going.
it just was not like, no. I just like, as a film, I'm like, there are better ways to tell this story. Like, I feel like the reveal in the middle happened too soon. Like, I don't know.
Or not soon enough, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the real story. You know what I mean? Like
That's
you're
true.
talking about
You're
talking
exactly
about the
right.
murder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that needed to be known sooner. Like we could have known that 30 minutes earlier, and then the rest of that movie would have been much more. Yes, but
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that like it just felt like the pacing was off, and like I cared too much about Ben Affleck's character in Gone Girl when like I probably shouldn't have been invested in him. Like I never questioned that he didn't murder her. So then like the reveal of what really happened, I'm like, yeah, okay, good. I was right. Right? Cuz he seems like a nice boy. Benny's a nice boy.
you leave him alone.
How do you like them apples? That's my Benny.
Oh,
Don't you
God.
do that.
He's not the one who says that line. Keep going.
He was the bomb in Phantoms, y'all.
But he was the bomb in Phantoms.
But yes. So that's it. So then like Girl on the Train, you're right. It has that similar aesthetic, and I'm like, why would I want to see this fucking Gone Girl movie? And then I saw it just because I don't know what I had seen before it. I think I saw Birth of a Nation and was the
God.
only person in the movie theater for Birth of a Nation remake. Not even remake, just like movie called Birth of a Nation, because I don't know, were they taking it back? Like it just made no sense why that was the name of that film. And then I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll go see freaking The Girl on the Train, right? I just saw that. How worse could it be? And I ended up loving Girl on a Train. Like, I thought it was great. And I'm like, well, they probably shouldn't have marketed it like it's a Gone Girl movie, because it's not. So I'm going to say disregard the marketing regarding fucking The Snowman, because it was super good. Like, it was a fun movie. Even though, like, if you've seen a movie like that, you'll probably be able to figure it out. It's still a fun time at the cinema.
Cool. I
But
mean, like, here's the thing. I grew up loving the what were the character that Morgan Freeman would play in Along Came a
that's exactly what I was
Spider
thinking of.
and
I couldn't think of his name, but that's the movie that the Snowman reminded me of. Was like Along Came a Spider and Kissed the Girls.
And Tyler Perry just played him in like an origin movie a couple of years back, and that kind of tanked. I think more because people just are sick of Tyler Perry than anything else.
Yeah.
What is that character? Damn it, that's gonna kill me,
dude. I once you said Tyler Perry, the name jumped in my head, but I've forgotten. Alex. I don't remember, but
Alex Payne. Alex. Nope, that's House of Pain. Nope, Max Payne. No, wait, what are we doing?
You're just saying Payne as the last name for characters.
Max Payne, man, you want to talk about a movie? Sorry, keep going.
Just as influential to the cinema as Howard the Duck.
Max Payne is one of those movies that I will love and I have no excuse for. But anyway.
But like, so I would see that. But the other film that I saw that is mysteriously gone, it made $2 million in its opening weekend.
It's not that mysterious.
It's Suburbicon. Which I will recommend everybody see because, again, the marketing for that movie, when I left Suburbicon, my review of that, right, like if I still did 8 words review, was nothing I expected, everything I wanted.
So that's the Coen brothers one that just came out, right?
They wrote the script. Clooney directed it.
Clooney directed it. That's the big reason I wanted to see it, really, is because Clooney in the directing seat is always interesting to me. And he can't seem to catch a break as a director. That sucks because I don't know. Clooney's just such a
He's a great director, and
if we ever find out anything terrible about George Clooney, that's it. I'm done with movies. Like so much crap going on in Hollywood right now. I can't take it as it is. George Clooney's just one of those dudes that I just hope is a good guy in real life.
I hope so too. I mean, like his penchant for pranks gets on my nerves a little bit, but other than that, I got to say penchant for pranks. So Clooney, you're good in my book. But Suburbicon, like I thought it was going to be some sort of like weird revenge flick. It's not. It's just a mystery movie. And like very well done, very well acted. I don't know why people didn't see it. And says another one. So if you have the chance to see The Snowman or Suburbicon, Devin Decker recommends them. And if you hate them, hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to have that discussion.
I have to check out Suburbicon because I had some weird feelings about the marketing for that as well, and that's because of how much they really seemed to like highlight the rape in that movie. That made me really uncomfortable, which was really weird in a marketing sense to like put a thing out there. I don't know. I gotta see that movie.
Wow, that's strange because I don't remember that ever happening in the film that I saw.
That's amazing. That's good to hear because that was honestly one of the biggest turnoffs. There's a moment in the preview where they pull away from it's a home invasion that happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they pull away from the home invasion and they show like a shadow on the wall and all it is a woman struggling and a guy and you know that it's a home invasion. So like the pull away feels like and in the marketing, the way that they edit it feels like, oh, something terrible is happening right now. And I was just felt so grossed out by that I was just like, as much as I want to see this movie, that's a huge turnoff for me. Dude, to find out that that's actually not even like a major
that's like not even it. Like it's so like, oh my god, like I don't want to ruin it for you. Go see Suburbicon.
I definitely do see it.
Fuck the fucking marketers on Suburbicon. They tried to sell that as a different movie, and that was a mistake. And that's why you made $2 million.
And I think that happens a lot with the Coen brothers. They've got these on and off years where they'll make a phenomenal film, and then their next project will come out, and it will fly under the radar, if not, and you get weird movies in those moments that I end up loving. Like Burn After Reading kind of suffered from that, and
Hail Caesar as well. Like Hail Caesar was one of those movies that was excellent. But here's the weird thing: this script they wrote after Blood Simple, so like it is an old script that then Clooney was like, "Hey, do you mind if I make this?"
Yeah, and like Matt Damon being in it, like the idea of Clooney directing him with I said, everything about it is super interesting. So
I would definitely go see it. Don't listen to the marketing on that one either. Like both of those movies are good, but then I feel like the reason why people didn't like them is because they were expecting a different movie based on the marketing, and that is what affected their numbers.
Ooh.
So to end on marketing, I made Sejohn watch a trailer that played before I saw Suburbicon last week. And, Sejohn, I'm going to give you the floor right now.
I honestly I don't know too much what to say here. We checked out the full trailer that has released for Downsizing. Um, Honey, I Shrunk We Shrunk Ourselves Part 2. I don't know what to feel about this movie right now. I mean, like, it looks interesting. I like the director. I like all the actors and the cast in it. But you seem weirdly affected by this trailer, Devin. What's
And
going on?
that is what I'd like to talk about. Is that I was weirdly affected by the trailer for Downsizing. And I think what it is, I mean, you can go see it. It's out there. Look for the official trailer on YouTube. I was completely okay with the fact that, like, we're going to shrink the people. And then there's the lyric. Oh my God. Like, I'm getting anxiety right now. Like, my chest is like, like, it makes me uncomfortable. That movie makes me so uncomfortable. And I don't know why. But I think it is specifically because of the line, "This is irreversible."
Yes. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to like jump on
No,
that,
no,
but
no, no, no,
no,
no.
there's a weird thing for me where in anybody else's hands, I'd be worried that this was a very dark movie, but the fact that it's Alexander Payne makes me feel really kind of okay with the weird circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you think about it in this way, like if Charlie Kaufman hadn't been the one behind Being John Malkovich, that would have been a very weird, different movie that would have been uncomfortable to watch. So the fact that like Kaufman's the one that handles it so artfully and so well, it makes it actually funny. But really, it's a horrific idea, right? And it's and he's really good at that. Kaufman's actually a really good example of somebody that does this kind of really weird, like surrealist, like humor that in the wrong hands is just like unwatchable uncomfortable,
Okay, so,
but
like,
somehow he makes it.
to tear away completely from what we're talking about, because hopefully it'll make me feel a little bit more comfortable. You speak about putting Being John Malkovich into the hands of anybody else. Secret information about the Say Report. Sejohn and I are huge fans of the Canadian-made live-action television series Big Wolf on Campus. And in their
Yeah.
third season, that might be a second season episode. I think it's third season, though. They have an episode called Being Tommy Dawkins, where there's a door into the werewolf's mind, and a bully goes in and takes over his body. That, like, you're not wrong. In less capable hands, the story of someone else being able to control you because they found a door into your consciousness, that's fucked up.
Yeah, like it's a really screwed up concept, and like, and it's one of those things where I don't mind that style of story if it's handled well, and I definitely get that feeling from this one of like, oh, this seems like a really creepy concept, but like I said, I have so much faith in the director for this one
But
cast.
that's sort of the reason why I needed to bring it up. Like, I was visibly shaken after watching that trailer.
Oh, I'll be entirely honest. I haven't actually. That was the first time I watched that particular trailer because I have been kind of turned off at the idea of this movie because it kind of upsets me.
Like, I was excited because, like, I had only heard about who was in the cast, right? Like, it's a great cast. I can't think of his name right now. Who the guy is?
Matt Damon, Christoph Waltz.
Oh, Matt Damon. Matt Damon was why, because
Matt, Matt Damon,
Kristen
Christoph
Wiig's
Waltz,
in it.
Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah, Jason Sudeikis was the other one whose name I was gonna say Ed Helms, but he's busy doing father figures. And I always get them confused, which is disappointing because one of them is far better than the other. I'll let you guys figure out which one I feel it is. But, like, so first of all, it plays before Suburbicon. So Dale and I make our joke of, oh, you like movies with Matt Damon? So we're laughing and having a good time. And I'm like, I was interested in this, right? Like, it is an interesting, like, philosophical question of, like, if overpopulation is a problem, what if we shrink the population? This is actually really hard for me to get through, so I am sorry about this stuff. Like, I need this stuff to sort of ground me, the random babbling. But then, like, they mentioned the fact that it's irreversible, and, like, my skin started to crawl, and I don't, and then, like, just some of the images in that trailer. So like, it was something that, like, on paper I was very excited about, but, like, I literally do not know if I would be able to get through the entirety of that film.
Yeah, but so like, let me put it this way: the like that exact thing is what's happening with me not wanting to watch it, right? But the thing that Payne does in his movies is that he deals with men dealing with irreversible change all the time. You know, The Descendants being a perfect example of this. Like George Clooney dealing with the loss of his wife in that movie, and like the uncomfortable loss. It not being like not that it's ever easy to lose a spouse, but it's not simply she died and he's grieving. It's not only did she die, but now he's also dealing with the fact that she might have also been unfaithful, right? And so like there's this weird complexity to it. And so like he always deals with that idea. So this feels like him just kind of taking it to an extreme, to a sci-fi extreme. And so that is what got me back into it, was watching that preview tonight and having that moment of realization of just like, oh, this is just like every other male character he deals with. It's just a very particular situation that doesn't sit well with me. But now that I think about it and thinking about the way that Payne handles those characters, I am actually super interested to see how he handles Matt Damon in this movie, because it feels like the whole concept is going to be about the idea that Matt Damon doesn't feel like he fits into the regular world. So he does this thing that he can't change back, but then he realizes he doesn't fit in there either, but it's too late. He can't go back, right? And like that is the story of every one of his male protagonists.
I mean, I was just gonna say I watched Human Centipede and had no fucking problems, but the little short people movie that fucks me over. I don't know.
Yeah, man. No, it is a scary idea, and he's dealing with it in a very pure form, and I think that that's what's really upsetting about it. Every time I watch it, like, because watching the early teasers for it made me kind of feel weird, and now watching this preview definitely like sent it home as well.
Good. All right, so I guess that's the real truth of it. Why I wanted to talk to you is that, like, am I alone in the way that, like, I watch movies all the fucking time. I watch movies like it's my fucking lifeblood, right? The way that people eat is the way that I consume cinema. And then, like, so that's the first time that I ever, like, watched something that reminded me of how I felt the first time I had to eat chicken salad. If that, like, puts everything together. It was like a pickle in my hamburger. Like, it just, like, oh, like, and it rocked me, and it changed the entire experience. So, yeah. So, thank you for confirming to me that I'm not crazy. Other people experience these things as well.
Yeah, man.
Sejohn, we went on a fucking journey this week.
Yeah, not at all what I expected. I had some things lined up and everything, but it's not worth it now.
Oh, well, you save them for next week. You take a little piece of paper, you write them down, and you can do the intro next week. How's that, big guy?
Yeah, excellent.
All right, so this has been the Say Report. I am Devin Decker. If you want to yell at me on Twitter, and please do, I am at Devin D. Decker.
And I'm at Siege versus the World.
And William, it's time for you to play, buddy.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.